Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of This Old Deck. So this week, I don't know if you'd call it an obscure deck, but I'm digging pretty deep now. This is the beauty of the books I'm using. So in this episode I'm taking a deck from the Deconstruction Companion, which I've mentioned in previous episodes, and I'll include a link in the description. So this book came out in 1999. Yeah, it was the first printing. And so we have a deck here from 1998. The JSS stands for the Junior Super Series. So Junior Super Series Eastern Regional. And this was this deck actually won first place in the 15 and under division. And this is a 5-colour flagpole deck. Weenie Flagpole. 29 creatures apparently. So these decks rely on trade winds. They're under the section in the book on trade wind decks. And so we're talking at a time in Magic's history like post Stronghold. So there'd been trade winds before that. If you recognise, this comes from Tempest. But the sort of decks you were seeing, if you go through the book, slightly different decks. You had this sort of some decks were more of a sort of blue, mono blue, bouncy type deck, where you'll sort of, and you'll see in a moment, part of Tradewind's Rider's appeal is you can sort of bounce stuff back to hand. So yeah, you've got a number of decks, Tradewind decks, which were more non-creature spells or creatures that had a spell-like effect. But also there were some creature-heavy decks which exploited the bounce effect by sort of bouncing cards that you owned to re-trigger ETBs. So a lot of the creatures had, spell effects on them, and so there would be an increase in the creatures. So over time, you sort of got variants of this where you would sort of see these weenie creature decks, which relied on various synergies, depending on the deck, to win basically. So we'll have a look through the deck, and then we'll go through some cards, hopefully that I've not spoken about before that much in the series, and just go down through a few tag rabbit holes from Scryfall. So in the deck we have 29 creatures, 4 Birds of Paradise, single green, 0/1 with flying, adds 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool, plays ability as a mana source. Now we're playing a 5-colour deck, so obviously it's really important that we have a pretty strong mana base here. So Birds of Paradise is in. We've got 4 Granger Guild Mage. This is a 1-drop, it's a 1/1 and has a couple of abilities on it. So one single white tap, target creature gains first strike until end of turn. Red tap, Granger Guild Mage deals 1 damage to target creature or player and 1 damage to you. So it's a weird symmetrical pinger. Then we've got 2 copies of Quirion Ranger, single green 1/1. Return a forest you control to owner's hand. Untap target creature. Use this ability only once each turn. So that's an interesting ability there, and you'll see how that might interact with some of the other cards here. So you do have to bounce a land, but you get to untap a target creature. We've got 4 Wall of Blossoms, 1 and a green, 0/4. And when it comes into play, draw a card. So this is quite a handy card to be able to bounce back to your own hand and recast. Then we've got Joel Rail's Centaur. So a 3-drop, 1 and 2 green, 2/2 with flanking. So whenever a creature without flanking is assigned to block this creature, the blocking creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Joel Rail's Centaur cannot be the target of spells or effects. We've got 1 Mana War, 2 and a blue. When it comes into play, return target creature to owner's hand. We've got 4 Uktabi Orangutans, 2 and a green, 2/2. When it comes into play, destroy target artifact. 1 Durelor, so 3 and a black. Your black spells cost an additional black to play. It's a 4/4. 2 Maros, 2 and 2 green. Mara has power and toughness, each equal to the number of cards in your hand. So notice the synergy between that and actually cards that put or allow you to draw cards to the Wall of Blossoms. Then we come to the key card in here. There's actually 3 Tradewind Riders. So 3 of one of the highest mana costing creatures. It's 3 in a blue, and the reason why you want a number of copies of it is because of this ability, which is obviously key to the Tradewinds type decks. So it has flying. It's 1/4, so it's a bit like a wall really, but this one, so tap 2 creatures you control, return target permanent to owner's hand. So you can be bouncing your opponent's stuff, so stopping them from playing permanents. You may notice it's target permanents, not like the Mana War, which is target creature, but target permanents. So you can sort of keep annoyingly bouncing stuff back to their hand, but also what you can do is target yourself with it if you wanted to, and bounce other stuff back to your hand, which is worth recasting. So you can probably see here there's all sorts of interesting synergies based on various cards playing off of other things. But also remember, we got some more in here. So we've got 3 Incinerates. So this can be used as removal. We can also blow up creatures with it, and they can't be regenerated. We've got 3 Mana Leaks. It's 1 and a blue. Counter target spell unless its caster pays an additional 3. And 2 Terrors, so 1 and a black. Bury target non-artifact, non-black creature. Our land base, so we need to be able to cope here with multiple colours. You'll notice on the creature side of things we are mostly playing green, but we do have blue and black, and one of our spells is red in addition to blue and black, which you've already spoken about. You're wondering where's the white. We'll get on to that in a moment because we do have white in here as well. So we've got 3 City of Brass. So it comes whenever City of Brass becomes tapped, it deals 1 damage to you, but we can generate 1 mana of any colour. There's 3 of those. There's 12 Forests. We've got 2 Gemstone Mines, which uses mining counters, and we can remove a mining counter from it to add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. If there are no mining counters on Gemstone Mine, bury it. But conceivably, where is it? We could, if we felt so inclined, bounce this back to restock it before it gets to this point where there's no mining counters on it. So that is a possibility. And we've got 3 Undiscovered Paradise. Tap, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. At the beginning of your next untap phase, return Undiscovered Paradise to its owner's hand, so that bounces itself back. So we have a means and ways of generating Wooburg here, but the bulk of this is green in terms of our basic land. We also have 3 Armageddons, 3 in a white, destroy all lands. Which is interesting because sometimes when you have that card in certain decks, it's quite useful if you've got mana generators like artifacts. We do have a Birds of Paradise. So if we had blown up all the lands with a Birds of Paradise in play, there's still some stuff we could play. So yeah, this is to me quite a cognitively heavy deck in that, you know, the order that you do things is really important. The point at which you start trade winding, and what cards are you going to use to fuel this in terms of tapping them, so then you can't attack with them when you choose to do that as well on your turn. So yeah, really interesting deck. That's why I wanted to feature it in our sideboard. So we've got 1 Disrupt, single blue, counter target instant, interrupt, or sorcery spell. Unless its caster pays an additional 1, you get to draw a card as well. 3 Firestorms, single red, choose and discard X cards. Firestorm deals X damage to each of X target creatures and or players. 2 Pyroblasts. We've seen this turn up a lot actually. So counter target spell if it's blue, or destroy target permanent if it's blue. 3 Chills. Red spells cost an additional 2 to play. So you can see here we've got certain spells that are going after certain colours of spells that you might be up against. So that's where you would obviously sideboard these in as a result of certain matchups as you were sort of playing the game. We've got 3 Disenchants, which will blow up artifacts or enchantments, and 3 Winter Orbs. So 2 to cast, and players cannot untap more than 1 land during their untap phase. So you got, if you want to go down the sort of lockdown route here, but you are locking yourself down. So again, timing and consideration in the matchup is pretty heavy in terms of deciding whether you want to do that. Now you will notice as well, you know, this deck inherently, if you're able to bounce this, is going to be quite disruptive to artifact decks generally. So I was probably at a time when that was a fairly major, you know, those decks were fairly big in the meta maybe. Okay, so let's go through and just have a look at some of these. I've got quite a few up there, so I think I'm just going to go for some fairly simple tag explorations with these. So Birds of Paradise. Evasion, because it flies. Similar to a Gilded Goose, it's one of these mana dorks, 310 of those. What's this? 3 Tree Root Weaver. I don't remember any colour. 1 and a green. 1/3. Paradise Bird. Ornithopter of Paradise. Paradise Plume. Paradise Mantle. Okay. But it is a 0/1. So yeah, it does it's quite susceptible to an awful lot of removal spells that remove by damage or negating the toughness. But very handy in this deck. I'm just going to go in here quickly because I'm curious. 27 EDH, 27% EDH rec stuff. So. Okay, Granger Guildmage from Mirage. If you're curious actually about the reprints, yeah, the Birds of Paradise have been reprinted quite a few times. However, Granger Guildmage has not. Yeah, it gives first strike. It's got off-colour abilities. You notice with these as well, this particular cycle, so green, white, red. So that would be, yeah, a shard, wouldn't it? I say a shard? Yeah, a shard, yeah. So in order, Wooburg, yeah, red, green, white, they're side by side. So you've got green in the middle and red and white either side. So green is allied to white and red, but white and red are allied enemy colours. And yeah, interesting. We were talking about you know, the previous card, Birds of Paradise. Although we don't want to be blowing up our own birds, we do have something here that we'll deal with the Birds of Paradise. So interesting in the mirror match. Everybody's blowing up everybody else's bird. Yep, so that was a cycle of guild mages from Tempest. You can see here, this is always quite a good indicator of, you know, whether these have been reprinted. And you can see the only one that was ever reprinted was Shadow Guild Mage. And what else might you notice here? Well, this overlapping thing with the ability. So you can see here, Granger Guild Mage and Shaper Guild Mage both have the white ability on them, and it's identical. There, so you can see each one of these, not surprisingly, shares an ability with two other cards. So Shaper Guild Mage, the first ability on that is also on Granger, and the second ability is also on Armourer Guild Mage. And you can go around them all and see how that works. That's pretty interesting. It's got a nice bounce effect, bouncing back to the library. So that's a pretty cool combination. Interesting. Because that would have been out at the time. Was in a World Championship from deck from. I wonder why they elected not to do that. I suppose from a combat perspective this is more useful. But target creature you control on top of its owner's library. Oh, it's you control, sorry. Yeah, no, so not so good. Okay, I misread that. I was going to say if that said put target a creature your opponent controls, then yeah. So actually that would be a really cool combination. So I'm redesigning the Guild Mages here. Okay, that's funny. I misinterpret them to my advantage. Okay. Yeah, so Vision's been reprinted a few times. Rescue Land, that's interesting. So yeah, this sort of ability is really interesting in decks, and I don't know if this is the case, but oh yeah, okay, so we can rescue our gemstone mine. Yep, okay. No, okay, and so it's a forest. Damn it, yeah, it's only forests. Arr. Yeah, so we can't do that then. That's a shame. That'd be really cool. Turn a forest you control its understand. Untap target creature. I was just trying to see whether you could double up here, so you know, have it so yeah, there's an advantage in actually having a forest back in your hand, and you get to untap a target creature. I'm not sure off the top of my head if there's anything. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there are any. It would have to be a forest with some sort of ETB on it, or the ability to restock counters. And I don't think, beyond the obvious dual lands and other cards as well. I think there's tri-lands as well, isn't there? I'm just trying to think if there's any dual lands, like non-basics that have the card type in them, which also benefit from being back in your hand that you can replay. So yeah, something to think about. I can't help it. I always look at it and go, oh yeah, and then when I read it properly it's like, oh no, I can't do that, can I? So if that had return a permanent you control, that'd be pretty cool. Scrib Ranger, what does that do? Rescue, I suppose we'd have to bounce something you control. Okay, so we go bounce something you control. And then we do type land. Do any of these have forest on them? No. Interesting. Hang on. What am I doing? Sorry. Yeah, I'm muddling myself up there. That's not what I was trying to do, is it? what I was trying to do is type land with, so I'm getting this around the wrong way, of enter, and let's just see what that is. So enters the battlefield, and if I do type forest, okay, so no advantage here to doing this. Okay, so you get, if you do it on one of these, you get to surveil. Murmuring Bosque in a tree folk deck. Yeah. Well, it's pretty niche. That's all I can say. I suppose the thing to do is to pick a few of these that definitely have something worthwhile. So, yeah, actually doing something rather than, yeah, this, which isn't really an advantageous, being able to replay it. But what I'm looking at is stuff where when you enter the battlefield, you get something. So like food tokens, there was surveil. So I suppose what would be interesting to do is put that and our friend Quiron Ranger in EDH Rec and see if it comes up with a hit. See if there's any decks which play that combo, if indeed it is a combo. Okay. Namesake spell, block, trigger, evasion. What is it? It's been errated, has it, to what? It's got shroud. Okay, yeah. Makes sense. So yeah, shroud. Namesake spell, which there are many. Derilor, this is a card I've not really seen a lot before. Is it Fallen Empires? I don't know if I have a copy of this or not. Black spells you cast cost black water cast. Okay. 4/4. I probably made the mistake when I saw it first and said it helps you with black spells, but it doesn't, does it? It actually makes it worse. So this is how they were nerfing the fact that it was a 4/4 for 4, I suppose. Yeah. So what would that affect? That would, if it was in play, that would be terror. So you probably might want to hold. Is that the only card? Terror, and there's only one copy of it anyway. So what's that? Your finisher maybe in the deck. Yeah. What's the interaction here with anything? 4/4 first strike. I don't know. See anything else really giving it anything useful? Okay. This is one of the fun things about looking at older decks. You just I don't know, mentality is the wrong word, but the mindset of these decks is like completely different, That's why they're so fun, I think, looking at them, and I start to see unusual synergies. I find looking at these decks can sometimes give you great ideas for for multiplayer stuff as well. Although I can't imagine this in... let's have a look, shall we? 62 decks. What does it play well with? Oh dear me. Yeah, I think I need to seriously look at my Wi-Fi connection. It's been very odd. Does it reckon it high synergy cards? Looks like it's in... There's some sort of extort life exchange going on here. Yeah, it's a card I'm completely unfamiliar with, so I don't really know what they... I mean, I can see why... Yeah, what it's being used for in this deck, but yeah, beyond that... Okay, so this is really interesting in this deck, because if you're bouncing back our friend up here, and you're drawing cards and you're filling your hand, it's going to buff this up. Virtual Legendary Marrow card. And of course there's quite a number of cards in Magic which base their power and toughness off some scaling thing, like cards in hand, creatures in the graveyard, creatures you've got on the battlefield, those sort of things. So yeah, it's not unusual in that respect, but it's just interesting synergy in this deck. Trade wins. Yep. So there we go. Tap 2 creatures you control, return target permanent to owner's hand. And because it's permanents, there's loads of stuff you can bounce. Has evasion as well because it's got flying. I'm not sure what sort of thing this would be in. It's only in just over 1,000 decks. What do they claim it synergizes well with? Okay. Selfless Spirit. Might be better to look for synergies in Cube Color actually. Yep, Mana War, Morphling. Interesting. And speaking of Mana War, yeah, so this has come up, I think, in previous episodes, but I just wanted to bring it up again because you know it's part of the feature of this deck about bouncing target creatures to owners' hands. So yeah, bouncing stuff, and yeah, he says you can target yourself or target your own creatures as well. But there's a number of cards that it is similar to that do similar things, this sort of bouncing stuff back to their hand. So basically it's unsummon on a creature. Lumingrade is a flyer that does it, but it is conditional on Metalcraft. Wall of Blossoms. Yep. So when it comes into play, draw a card. So that's an interesting card to be able to bounce. It's a wall. So you can bounce it with your Man of War, but obviously you would more likely do the repeatable bounce of, you know, Tradewind Rider. Not sure what it's similar to. So we've got Caravan Carotid, which is 1 and 2 green Defender. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. That's a 2/5. So this is a 0/4 for 2. And then we've got Wall of Omens, which is colour shifted. So if we look at this, it might be a bit easier to see. You can see this has been reprinted another number of times. But it wasn't colour shifted as a result of, you know, the, what's the name of the set? In that sort of whole Future Sight era. Plane shift era. So, yeah. It's colour shifted for Rise of the Eldrazi. So yeah, 1% of decks on the EDH rec. Oh, there's Wall of Omens, look. And Wall of Denial. So yeah, I suspect it's in a number of Wall stroke Defender type decks. And is it in one of these ones where... So yeah, there's During the Siege Tower. Arcades, yep. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense actually. City of Brass, which we have looked at previously, but obviously very useful in this deck because we've got to get access to 5 colours. Grand Colosseum, Tarnished Citadel, interesting card, Mana Confluence. Gemstone Mine, another card that we've seen quite a bit, but I wanted to just revisit it because it's pretty key to being in a 5 colour deck. And if you can, which we can with the Tradewinds, with our friend Tradewind Rider, we can bounce that at a certain point to redo the counters. Obviously you want to do it before this gets triggered. Undiscovered Paradise. This is this strange land that you can tap it for any one mana of colour, and during your next untap step, as you untap your permanents, you bounce it back to your hand. Now in this deck, it's actually quite useful with Morrow in play, because that's going to increase the hand count in your hand, so it's going to increase the power and toughness of the cards. So yeah, again, there's interesting synergies in here. And bounce self is a bit of a thing in Magic. There's a number of different cards that do that for various reasons. Reccolite from... Wow. So that's from Antiquities. 2. Prevent 1 damage to any target. If Reccolite is used, it returns to its owner's hand at the end of turn, or it jumps the Reccolite and then discarded. Funny. Legends, wow. Oh, there's Feldegriff. Thawing Glaciers. Yeah. I can't remember if I have one of these or not. Pretty sure I got one of those. Oh, there's a Sandstalker. Oh yeah, Ovinomancer. So that bounces 3 basic lands you control. Tap, return of a very target creature, and put a sheep token into play under the control of the creature's control. Treat this token as a 0/1. That's funny. It's Tim the Enchanter. I'm going to have to look, what the hell deck is that in? What does it synergize with? Interesting. Torchling, Endling. Armageddon. Yep, blow up all the lands. %1 of decks on EDH Rec. So, just out of curiosity, because, you know, I was interested in such things, is first printing. I don't know if I even have a copy of Armageddon at all. Was that reprinted in? Let's have a quick look. Did that turn up in 10th edition? I don't think it did it? No, they pretty much stopped printing that after about 6th. Where was it? 6th, and it was in the start. It's in the starter set. That's funny. Yeah. Teach beginners bad habits. 754. Wow. Anthologies. Yeah, I'm not sure if I would have ever pulled one. I'm just trying to think of what opportunity. So, 4th edition. Would that be the only opportunity I would have had to have pulled one? I could have. I did a weird thing early on when I was collecting Magic cards, and sort of collected a sort of random assortment of really early cards that were relatively cheap. I think I must have gone through that very first deck that won. I think, was it the very, very, very first, either the Pro Tour or the World Championship? I can't remember the name of the deck, and I was just curious about certain cards in there, and I can remember going through and like buying all the relatively cheap ones because I just wanted some old cards. But I don't think that was the case with this. But I'm just trying to think, you know, I think I've opened some 6th edition stuff possibly, and maybe 5th, but certainly some 4th. So yeah, I'll have to go through and see. It's cool. And I don't think it was ever printed in that. What's the other thing it turned up in? From the Vault Annihilation. Did I buy that? I think I did. I think I have that set. I should check. That'd be an interesting. I should revisit. Wow, my collection's really being very naughty. Yeah, I should check that actually. See if I have that. bet they're super curvy. It's got living death in it. Terminus, upheaval, that's banned in Commander, isn't it? Yeah. It's a nice little collection for you. So if you did do something like that, what's the most... where are we? If we do full and price... Oh, crikey, Ravages of War, of course. It was reprinted in Fallout, but I think you'd probably want the original. Acid Rain. 100. Wow. Tsunami. There is a 4th edition version. Devastation was in port. Yeah, so many of these are in like one-offs. The Dark. Ruination from Stronghold. Juckle Hoops. Was reprinted a few times. Yeah, I always forget that a Johnny Vengeance blows up lands. I think I may have pulled that at some point. Catastrophe. Destroy all lands or all creatures. Creatures destroyed this way cannot regenerate this turn. It's a 6 mana. Boom Bust. There's Obliterate, which really goes for it. Desolation Angel, of course, from Apocalypse. Destroy all lands you control. If you don't kick it. So I have Singularity. Boil. Wow, from Tempest. There's several of these that I just blowing up islands. Stench of Evil. Wow. So there we go. I'm assuming this is down the bottom. Yeah, this weird stuff happens because there's no US price on this. I'd have to turn. That's why that's ended up down here. I'd have to turn that around. And you can pick up a Flash Fires. Pretty cheap in 4th edition. Armageddon 7. Is that probably what? That must be... You reckon that's the cheapest, maybe? 5th edition. I mean, there's the World Championship deck, but it is gold bordered. Was in anthologies. $9. Yeah. Oh, okay. So if I... Yeah. View prints. Order by USD. Full. Flip it. Oops. There we go. Oh, that's online, isn't it? What's the cheapest copy? What's going on here? I'm really messed up here, haven't I? Price. Let's just try Europe. Okay. The euros. Yeah, it's all the Pro Tour stuff. All the gold borders. Yeah, so 4th edition. Outside of that. Okay. Good to know. We got Firestorm from Weatherlight. Choose and discard X cards. Firestorm deals X damage to each of X target creatures and or players. So it doesn't really synergize very well with Marrow, but it's a sideboard card, isn't it? I think, yep. And burn any. Okay. Target creature and or player. Target creatures and or players. Interesting. So I can see, you can sort of see if you had a pretty full hand and then you discarded everything. So how well does that, what do we got it synergizing on EDH Rec? Well, it's not played in many decks. Discard your hand and draw that many cards. I mean, if you want a massive full hand, then obviously you need to play, what is it, yeah, Reliquary Tower, and what's that artifact I really like? Oh yeah, Library of Leng. Howling Mine. So you got the Howling Mine, Leng, Fire Storm combo. If indeed that is a combo. I doubt it. Pyrokinesis. Yeah, Electricary has overload on it, doesn't it? It does 1 damage to target creature you don't control. If you overload it, you can cast this spell for its over because if you do, it changes the text by replacing all instances of target with each to each creature you don't control. Yeah. So quite a few variants here about. But I didn't see anything, didn't notice anything similar in here, did you? So Goblin Bookie, okay, no. I mean, discard outlets could be anything really. Or you discard and do something else. Get something else. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Interesting. So that's not dissimilar, is it? I was curious as to whether there were any other instant speed spells that did a similar thing. Doesn't look like it's part of a, what do they call it? Mega cycle, is that? Would be, I don't know, mega cycle. Choose and discard. So if I do choose and discard X, would that would work, wouldn't it? Let's just check the wording on this. Discard X cards. So if I do discard X cards, and just see what we've got. Open brackets, something like that. Ooh, okay, that's interesting. I like going on a unplanned side quest. Okay, release date, ascending. I'm just curious if we've got anything similar where there's no X in the casting cost. So we got Firestorm. So that does damage. That removes creatures from the game. This one bounces. Okay, that's doing a like shoot to the top of the deck. I don't know if that has a. Does that have a specific name for that? Or just tutor card, tutor to top. Okay, yeah. I didn't know if that had also had like a little nickname thing. Wow, there's quite a number of. Okay, well, this is interesting. So you can see here, look, we've got Vengeful Dreams, Turbulent Dreams. So the dreams, and there's 3 in black. Okay, so there is a cycle of similar cards here in Torment. And was Torment the was it Torment that had the colour balance in the set wasn't even? I think that's right. Oh, that's really interesting. Is that gonna? Okay. Cycle. So there's only 5 in it. So even though these are called dreams and they do a similar thing, it doesn't include them. It's interesting, isn't it? Oh, it looks quite different. So it's this weird thing where there's a horizontal cycle and a vertical cycle across rarities in black. So that's to top. It's back to your hand from the graveyard, and that's X damage. Okay. What's the Torment? Was that TOR? I think it was, wasn't it? Ooh, this is really good. Okay. I think you can probably see where I'm going with this. Full. Oh, okay. Tell me, misprinted with low resolution pixelated art. Okay. I did not know that. Wow. Oh, we're learning so much here. So that is $7. So we've got. Oh yeah, I can see why this would be expensive. So this was part of that cycle, but the other 2 weren't, even though they've got similar templating. Okay. It's a nice little set though. And oh yeah, that was in the Graveborn deck, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, they've not been reprinted either. This is interesting. Oops. Let me just go down here. City's Dreams. Discard it. Yeah, I suppose sometimes it is quite tough, isn't it, to make large amount of discard synergy. I mean, suppose if you're playing a a self-mill deck, but do you really want to be, you don't really want to be milling from your hand. That's not always a great thing. So, yeah. So there is a mill commander there. I'm just wondered whether this would be better off played with one of the sort of graveyard shenanigans monster commanders. Yeah, not sure about that, but interesting. Yeah, interesting cycle, both vertical and horizontal there, which I hadn't even thought about. Okay, that's why I like doing these. You never quite know what you're going to stumble across. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.